Hi, my name's Sophie from Flockstocks, and today this video tutorial will teach you how to easily dye feather hair extensions permanently. For an idea of the kind of feathers that you'll be able to dye and the colours you'll be able to achieve, this is what we can do in just about 20 minutes. So what you'll need today is some feather dye. The dye that I use is fly dye organic. It's specifically made for the purpose. You'll also need your feathers, of course, and you'll need a container to mix up a paste and a stainless steel saucepan. Okay, so I'm going to dye yellow today. So got my paste. Now just going to take a small spoon of the dye. Okay. Now these dyes are very strong. You don't need to use very much of it. So I'm just taking the small spoon and placing it into my container. Okay, I'm just going to tip in some water and make a paste. Okay. Now just a small amount of water. We're just pre-dissolving the dye so it takes to the saucepan better. Okay, now just going to stir that around. Okay, so we've got our pre-dissolved dye, and what we need to do is just add it to the saucepan. So I find a lot of these companies make the instructions really complicated when it comes to dyeing feathers. I actually think that it's really simple. So you just need dye in a saucepan with water, and if your colour's not bright enough, then add more dye. If it's too bright, then just add more water. It's that simple. So you just get the dye into the saucepan once it's been pre-dissolved, and then put your feathers in. Just heat at the start, but what you want to do is just add your colour into your saucepan. Now this saucepan already had about 5 to 8 centimetres depth of water in there, just cold water. So we're just putting that onto the stove and just turning the heat up. So the heat that we're going for is just a gradual increase from cold to simmer. So once we get the feathers in, we're just going to bring the temperature up gradually, and once we get probably about 10 minutes into the heating up, we're going to add some just household vinegar in, about a teaspoon, and then just keep increasing the heat and leave it on that just off simmering point for about 5 to 10 minutes, and you'll see the colour really take into the feathers. So my dye here is a pretty good shade of yellow. I find if you put the teaspoon in and just hold it up, you can have a look at what colour you're probably going to have. So see that? That's a bit pale for me. So what I would now do is add some more dye. So it's no science, just add more dye. Just going to get some more yellow and just sprinkle a little more in. Okay. Good. And just stir that around. Okay. So now that I've got my colour that I'm happy with in my saucepan, I'm just going to add my feathers. So I've got just a plain white and a grizzly that I'm going to do in this yellow colour. So I'm just adding those into the saucepan now. Okay. And just covering them with the water so they're completely submerged. Okay. Actually, I might just add another grizzly in there as well while I'm at it. Okay. So I'm doing 3 saddles here, but same amount of dye, really, if you're doing 1 or 5, just as long as the colour's right. Okay, so there we go. I've added my feathers onto my saucepan and now I'm just waiting for the heat to increase. So probably come back in about 5 or 10 minutes and then we're going to add the vinegar. Okay, now we're approaching the point where we want to add the vinegar in. So you can see that the feathers have started to take the colour. So you're getting a nice amount of dye into those feathers, but it still hasn't reached the top temperature yet. So I'm just going to add the vinegar in now. It's the perfect time for it. So there we go, just a little splash, and that helps set the dyes. So we're just going to stir that around a little bit, and this is starting to reach the proper temperatures now. So there's steam coming off it and it's almost bubbling in there, almost. So it's very, very hot, and it's these hot temperatures now that are really setting the dye into the feathers. Okay, so we'll come back in a couple of minutes and then they should be ready to take out. Alright everyone, we're ready to take our feathers out of the saucepan now. Okay, when you lift the feathers out at this stage, you should be able to look at the feather and see the colour that you wanted to achieve. So if that colour is not present in the feather now, leave it in for longer. So it's been on the simmer for about 5 minutes, in total on the stove for about 20 minutes now. Okay, so we're just going to take them out and move them to the sink. Okay, so here we go. Now, we're just going to tip the contents of the saucepan out into the sink. Okay? Okay, so most of the water's gone now and we're just left with the feathers. So I'm just going to put the feathers into the sink now. Now we're just going to rinse these feathers off. Once you get some cold water on them, you can handle them. So use tongs or whatever, but I find it much easier if you just get your hands into it. Okay, so just rinsing the feathers off, cold water. Okay, just be careful here, you don't want to lose any feathers down the drain, so just keep an eye on that. Okay. 2. And so I've got my grizzly saddles here and my plain saddle. So start to get an idea of the colours, and what I'm going to do now is just set them in a bath of cold water. So you're just filling up the sink there until the feathers are covered, and just leave them like that for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll take them out and start the drying process. Okay, so now it's time to take the feathers out of the water bath. The dye should be set now and we should be ready to dry. So we'll just take a look. So they've just been sitting in this water bath for about 5 minutes. You can see that some of the yellow has come out into the water. That's a good sign. And you're just agitating them around in the water every now and then to help that excess dye be released from the feathers. And then you'll be left with a feather that will not run in any way. Okay. So, got these saddles. Now, what I like to do to help the drying process is use a hairdryer. So what I'm doing, I'm just squeezing out the excess water, like so, and just placing them to the side. So you can see the difference in the colours just from the different patterns. So this is just the white, which has dyed a really bright yellow, and the grizzlies look much darker because the yellow has only taken to the very small amount of white in the feather there. So up close you can get a better idea of the actual colour. I think it might be a bit hard through the screen to see just how vibrant they are, but they're quite a vibrant canary yellow altogether. So I've just squeezed off that excess dye, and I'm just going to put these feathers to the side just for a little bit and let them dry maybe half an hour naturally, and then I'm going to take my hairdryer to them and speed up the process. Okay, we'll see you in a minute. Hi everyone, welcome back. It's time to dry the feathers. So I've got a selection of the feathers here that we've dyed today. So what you're doing is just blow drying them to speed up the process. Okay, so there we have it. We have some dried feathers. Here we go. So we've got our beautiful vibrant colours. Alright everyone, welcome back. This is the final stage of the feathers. We've dried them with our hairdryer. And now we have some dried feathers ready to use. So these are the yellows that we did, grizzly and plain. We've got some nice red there, very vibrant pink, and blue one there. So there we go, that's what we've done today. And they're pretty much ready to go. So for any tips on how to dye feather hair extensions, what's a good idea, what sort of brands are good, any more information, please feel free to contact me through my website. It's www.flockstocks.com. Happy to answer any questions, and thanks for joining me.